Hey guys, this is Jason Enos and I wanted to show you how to restore a Copic marker. I have one here that's kind of in disrepair, so I want to kind of go over the steps you would take to bring back this marker to a almost brand new condition. So let's get started. Okay, so to restore a Copic marker, the first thing you need, of course, is the marker itself. I recommend having these Copic tweezers. It makes it easier to do the removal of the felts. Also, you need a refill that matches the color. As you can see, I have Y13 here, Y13 here as well. Also, I recommend a bottle of the colorless blender. This is the colorless blender refill, but they sell it in larger bottles so it can be used as a cleanser. So, how do you know when a marker's gone bad? Well, you'll see that the marker tip is significantly darker than the actual color it should be, much darker. And the ends are usually very stiff and no marker comes out, no ink comes out of the marker. So what I usually do is grab one of the ends with these Copic pliers, grabbing it firmly, tugging as firmly as I can, being very careful. And then I usually store this end cap on, upright off. I'm going to steer this actually up off camera. And then what I'll do is I'll put the end, it's got a little chewed up in the process, but we'll see if we can still restore it. Drop it in this cup. And then I'm going to pour some of the fluid into the cup here. About like that. Enough to kind of cover the marker. And I start kind of sloshing around a little bit, just so that I can get the kind of the fluids covered, start dissolving off. You can see the fluids already started to turn a yellow color, which is the old ink coming out of it. And we're going to leave this soak overnight, guys. So I'm going to put this inside of another cup because sometimes this ink can leak. This is an older one, as you can see. It's got all the buildup from the other color I was cleaning. I just go ahead and drop that in there, and I'll leave it so that it can soak overnight. And we should be good, guys. Okay, guys, so we're returning back to take a look at what our progress has been. And I've gotten it mostly trying to see if I can fish it out of here, guys, for you. Gotten it mostly dry for us here. See if I can fish it out with something. It's kind of stuck in there. I've gotten some of the ink all over my fingers trying to get it out. So, as you can see, the ink is pretty much soaked up out of the tip here. Pretty good now. There we go, guys. There's the marker tip. And you can see it's mostly cleaned out. I'll pat it dry with this paper towel here. And again, you can see it's pretty much the color of the actual refill now. Pretty close. Much better than the dark shade we had the other day. And we're going to take this and we're going to put it in the original marker. I'm trying to find it real quick. Here we go. Now I'm going to install this in the marker. I'm just trying to make sure I line it up properly. The chisel goes on the right side, so I'm going to insert this high end into there. There we go. Now we're going to flip it and remove this tip here. See how gross it got here, guys? So I'm going to pull it out without damaging it. I think I did that successfully. And as you can see, this tip is also very, very dark. I'm going to cap this real quick and put it back into storage. And now I'll put this one in to soak overnight. We need some new fluid because the old fluid soaked into the tip and evaporated as well. So we'll add some new fluid in there. As you can see, it already started to kind of start dissolving the fluids down. So, slosh it around a little bit. So you can see it's starting to really work on it and really getting some of the color out of there. But we'll leave this overnight and see how clean we can get it. Okay guys, now we're coming back to a couple days later. I forgot to film yesterday, but here is the cleaned brush tip. You can see it's still staying the color of the marker, but it's not very hard at all. It's very flexible. And here is the color of the refill. So let me reinstall the marker first. Or I should say reinstall the brush tip back into the marker. Make sure it's nice and snug. There we go. Now we have both ends cleaned and ready to go. So let's try to restore this marker by, this is the, always confirm that they match. You can see Y13, Y13, so we know they match. And these marker refills always come wrapped in plastic. This is the brand new kind, by the way, guys. They used to come in a much larger bottle, but this is the new refill. For information purposes, this is what the old refills look like. This is the bottle they came in. So they're much slimmer. These actually hold twice the amount, but the refill tip is not the greatest either. It's kind of okay, but it's not super easy to use. This has a much more syringe-like tip. You can see it's a lot more conducive to filling. Now what I like to do is uncap both ends so that the air can breathe through the marker. There's a slight amount of air breathing. And then if you can see, there's a little slot right there, like a half moon slot right there. And I try to get the ink to drip onto this end of the felt and run down that half moon part. And it's going to take quite a lot of ink to get this going, because we're backfilling off of the felt and into the marker barrel itself. As you can see, this wet end is a lot darker than this end here, which is dry. And one way of filling this is to fill it so that it eventually drips out the other side, which is why I have this paper below it, just to be on the safe side that it doesn't overfill. I try not to overfill. I try to make sure that I only use as much ink as necessary to fill it up. Bottle's a little tough to use sometimes, but again, not so bad at all. And then what I usually do is I come back over here and I drip fill some of this, just to get it a little bit wet. There we go. As you can see, that's a little bit darker than it was. And then I want to fill it up a little bit more. As you can see, too, the little grooves that were cut into by the tweezers when I pulled out the felt tip are not so noticeable. There we go. So what I usually do is cap both ends. This cap, I think, is the one that's loose. Give it a shake like this, just like this, and then lay it flat for about 30 seconds. So at that point, we can do a quick test to see how it flows. Now, if for some reason, if it feels like the markers don't want to respond as well, like it feels like it's still not fixed, or if I have further problems, I can assume it's probably the case of the marker, or one of the tips was wrong, or it could very possibly be that one of these tips here was not secured when it first came from the factory, that it came loose and allowed air to get into the actual marker itself. So I'm actually going to kind of give it another shaky shake and then lay it flat, let that kind of soak into both ends really quickly. And then we'll do a quick test. Now again, if for any reason this doesn't work out, you can always replace the markers with, I think I showed you the tips, but these tips here, you can buy these replacement tips. Obviously they're bright white. This is the actual tip before it actually encounters any refill, or any ink I should say, and you can use those in place of the ones that have gotten damaged or stained beyond repair. So let's give it a try now and see how it responds. Brush tip's a little dry, that's okay. It may take a little bit more time. Yeah, that's pretty good. So again, more time with this would probably make it a lot better, but the brush tip has a nice flow to it, and it'll get better with time. Like, the more I let the ink soak into the actual markers, the better it'll be. So this marker should be about right. So guys, that's how I restore a Copic marker back to its almost original, or at least refurbish it back to a more new-like state. If you have any questions, I broadcast on Twitch at twitch.tv/JasonEnosArt. I broadcast Tuesday evenings and Friday mornings for right now, but I do post changes to my schedule. I'm also on Reddit. If you want to check me out, I think I'm Jason E. Art over there. So I'm glad to answer any questions that I have the know-how for. And thank you for watching this video. And if you want to see more, subscribe here so you can learn more about updates from here. And I hope to see your guys' art soon.